bit about Andrew?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, how deep do you want to go? We go back to when we met and all this.
Yeah, how'd y'all meet?
All right, cool. Let's go down the rabbit hole. So, 2018, I believe it was, in Ukraine. I'd contacted Tate because I needed some help with something in Romania. You know, he's a useful guy there. Following that, don't need to talk about it. I then said, I want to say thank you, and I want to take you and your brother shooting. You know, I have a weapons and tactics training company. Come over to my facilities in Ukraine. We'll get amongst it. So I'd put aside 2,000 rounds for the 3 days of training. We went through 8,000 rounds in 3 days.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to say, that's a lot of shooting, man.
It was dusk till dawn. Back then, you know, obviously there was
shooting everything, pistols, ARs.
Yeah, Dragunovs, you name it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And really, most people, this is the thing, when it comes to actual practical training, the benefit of training after about 400 or 500 rounds for most people is gone because they're mentally and physically fried.
Yeah.
These two brothers, they didn't get tired. They were sharp on hour 1 on the range as they were on hour 12. And so we just kept putting down those rounds because it was still useful training.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just want to be doing a yippee shoot.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be spraying ammo for the sake of it.
Yeah.
But these guys were really training well. And on that trip is when I realized that they were built different. There was one example, myself and another instructor, he was very experienced. We were running the range. And we realized pretty early on that Tristan liked the AK. And so we taught him a speed reload. That's where you use the fresh mag to kick out the old one, get it in, charge it up, and get back on target. We showed him this once. He didn't even drill it. He and his brother were doing break contact, you know, covering, shooting, covering, you know. Just
I think I've seen some footage of this.
Yeah, so it wasn't a break contact. It was just fire and movement, basic fire and movement. And on the move, which is, you're meant to fix stoppages on the move, Tristan comes up, brings out a fresh mag, executes a perfect speed reload with the AK, gets back up on target, and and the instructor and I looked across the range and just went, what? Like both of us had this moment. We've never seen anybody learn that quick.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to realize these guys have a level of both physical and mental ability which is very rare. I didn't even know about, you know, I wasn't a social media guy back then. I don't think I even had Instagram, or if I did, it wasn't public. I wasn't really posting much. I didn't know about their whole speaking, you know, the way the Tates talk.
Yeah.
They were just two cool guys who, you know, we connected and said, hey, let's hang out.
Showing guys having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. But then I remember the evening it was Tristan's birthday, and in Kiev, instead of going out and enjoying, you know, the nightlife, all these things, we spent 6 hours that evening, having shot constantly, having not slept much, and all we did was talk. We were at a cigar lounge in a nice hotel, just talking. And that to me, I saw again, these are high status guys. You know, Tristan looks like, you know, a Greek god.
Yeah.
He's massive.
Yeah.
They weren't out chasing tail in Kiev, which, let's be honest, there's very attractive women in Kiev.
Yeah, Ukrainian girls are hot.
We need to admit to some realities there.
Not like these American chicks.
You know, I wouldn't know. I don't pay attention to that demographic personally, brother. So we were sitting there for 6 hours, ignoring all of the, you know, the temptations that are out there, and that's when Andrew started to share his view of the world. And one of the things that he said, which actually ties into what we were talking about just then, was what's happening now in the West, and again, this is 5 years ago, is the way a man and a woman interact is being interfered with by leftist wokeism.
Yep.
When you interrupt the natural way man and women interact, so traditional gender roles, man protects, you know, provides, women cares, you know, the traditional
takes
stuff.
Care of the children,
exactly.
rears the household.
Then you interrupt the way families are built.
Yes.
When you interrupt the way families are built, you interrupt the way children are raised.
Yep.
When you interrupt the way, you know, these things are carried out, at the macro level, that interrupts a whole society, and then that's where their sort of catchline "failed society" came from. You know, remember they used to say it all the time, "failed society." Now we see it happening.
Yeah.
At that point, 5 years ago, I turned and I said to Andrew, "Your message is very important. The world needs to hear this. I'll do whatever I can, you know, with my network, my capabilities, to help spread that message." And at that moment, that's when we sort of became a bit of an informal team, and that I was bringing the value that I could. And he obviously, his message has now blown up and now gone global.
Yeah,
but
5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago, when no one knew who he was, I saw that potential and said, all right, this is real, this is important. I'll do whatever I can to support that.
Yeah.
So that's our origin story, so to speak. From there, I mean, we spent a lot of time together. Before that was so big that people were coming to the house, they used to stay and live in my house. I've lived in their house in Romania for months on end. You know, they've been in my place for months. I've visited their place in Romania numerous times. We've traveled all over together, and I've been on the jets. I've been on the yachts. I've been around, you know, the guys. I've been with him in restaurants. I've seen the women in his orbit. I've seen every single interaction that he does for literally hundreds and hundreds of days. And this is why I take a little bit of an issue with all of these journalists, these people doing documentaries, these independent journalists who are making assumptions about Tate and using often very subpar investigative abilities. I'm a professionally trained investigator. I've been doing it for a long time. And then they're using very weak, very uncredible sources to make all of these assumptions, which they then label as facts and push out into the world. Man, the amount of trash and inaccuracies being pushed about the Tate brothers, I've never seen anything like it. Like I've always known that media is just trying to push what they push to get clicks for advertising revenue. It's simple. But the amount of absolute nonsense and clearly incorrect statements being pushed out by some big media houses, some so-called credible media outlets, it's objectively wrong. It's nonsense. And I know because I've been there. Now look, one of the things you're taught, as you'd know, as a former law enforcement guy, when you're looking to assess truth in an investigation, you must examine the credibility of the source, right? Now, all of these journalists making these assumptions, what sources do they have access to? What he said on the internet? We all know now, and we can talk about this, he was using a certain approach to get viral and it worked. Now, if we want to talk about a credible source, I've been with this man in his orbit. He's been in my house for 5 years. Now, I'm not objective. I'm strongly on Team Tate. That's why we're even talking. That's why I'm even putting myself out there. But I am credible. I hold a master's degree in security and risk management. I've held a number of roles in large companies back in the day. Before that, I held top secret clearances in various units. I'm a very credible source who's been around him for 5 years. If people want information about Tate, I can give it to them. Not these journalists who maybe they met him once, or these
journalists even think to reach out to you?
They have, and I've given my input, but it doesn't fit with their agenda, doesn't it? Now, when it comes to public relations and journalists, typically it's best not to engage. I've engaged with a lot. You saw me talk to Vice. And I've engaged with a lot of these guys. A lot of the time, they'll snip out all the positive stuff, and they'll try and put something forward that fits their agenda. Not usually effectively. I'm pretty good at speaking and being very clear and communicating carefully. But all of the journalists who I've spoken to, and I've spoken to a lot, they don't want to use what I have to say because it doesn't fit their agenda, which again highlights the fact that they're not really pursuing truth. They're pursuing an agenda. They're pursuing clicks. They're trying to scandalize things. It's absolutely disgusting, the lack of journalistic integrity that exists in today's world. Genuinely, to all you journalists out there, honestly, shame on you. Absolute shame on you for calling yourself a professional and pushing these clear and easily debunked lies about two very good men. And truth will win. Reality will come out. Whether it's in 1 month or longer. When the Tates come out,